I'm Ryan Sullivan, and this video is not for everybody. This podcast is for the business owners. This is for people who are trying their hardest to make it work. And over this next 45 minutes, we're gonna uncover what worked and what didn't work for me. The $15,000 lesson that I learned that I'm hoping to give you today for free. That and a whole load of ups, downs, and lessons here in this interview with my friend and client, Dan Martin. Dan runs a business coaching program for business owners as well, so make sure you go ahead and connect with him further if you'd like. But this episode is all about my business journey for what it's worth. So I appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy.
I'm really curious, mate, because you share a lot of your personal story on LinkedIn, background in music, and it's such an interesting journey. And I think it'd be really cool for me selfishly to learn more about that, but also speak to, origins, where you come from and how you got into doing what you do right now. So you've recently been going through a bit of a pivot phase, as have I. As of today, what is it that you're spending most of your time doing?
Yeah, so most of my time is just spent in the business for the most part, building it. But that's just one business that I have. And then I have an entertainment company as well that I don't really spend much time on that. I have some philosophies around side hustles and kind of now I've came to a point with morning routines and side hustles that I'm pretty much, I have my opinions on them and that's just what they are. And I don't think they're going to change for a while, but that's a side note. But in terms of, my time, man, this is what I do. I mean, if somebody stops me on the street, which never happens, but imagine if it did, I would just say I make music and podcasts because that's what I do, So it's, is that most of my time? Probably not. Most of it is being able to make music and podcasts,
Yeah, I hear you. I have to ask what your philosophy is. I couldn't overlook that. What is your philosophy on side hustles?
My philosophy on side hustles is two things. So the first thing is have it be a thing that you love to do or a thing that you love to learn about. The good thing about that is it just makes it easier, right? If you take the thing that you love to do and the thing that you love to learn about and then try to make that your everyday job, it's so hard, right? And I've done that too, so I get that. But especially if you're not an entrepreneur and you're just like, I want to do a side business or side hustle, don't try to build a business. Like that will come, but just make it something that you either love to learn about that you don't know about or something you already know you love, right? And then number two is I have it require zero extra time. My side hustle is something I've been doing for 10 years. So I don't have to think about it. I can just go do it. Now, is it sometime? Yes, the client is texting me during my day, right? Like there are things that I have to do. I have to take meetings, right? I have to go and do the event, right? But it requires no time from my main hustle. That should be the actual rule, right? So it's like, if it does require time, sure, but make sure it's nights and weekends or whenever you're flexible. And by the way, this is for me. These rules, I'm not advising anybody to follow them. I'm not advising anybody to take anything from what I'm saying here, but this is just what I've designed for myself.
That's such a big insight in and of itself, that last thing you said there, particularly when we operate in the world that you and I do, which is LinkedIn most of the time, where we're told to not say how to, and you must say how I, which I agree with. I definitely think that that's better, but what works for one will not work for all.
Yeah, and I've done the how to. I've made videos on, I don't talk about side hustles anymore. We've mentioned making some pivots. I've definitely done that, but yeah, I've done the how to. If you want the how to is easy. The actual thing is hard, right? Yeah. So yeah, there's a million ways to do a side hustle. That's the problem. The problem with side hustles is like side anything, dude. Side chick, side job. It's not the priority, right? And so that's where it gets complicated.
I hear you. So for you, then the main thing is helping people businesses now, I think, right, where you shifted into helping organizations ideate over a podcast, launch the podcast, and then turn the podcast into a channel of monetization. Yeah. And then
Yeah.
outside of that, the passion project or side hustle, whatever you want to call it, is that music or is that the media business
I
that
have a
you
DJ, so I'm a DJ, like wedding DJ.
got it? Got it. I love
Yep.
that. What kind of music do you play? I suppose you're kind of restricted at weddings, aren't you?
Anything, whatever they want. I mean, there's standard wedding music, so
Yeah.
that's like your 2010s hip hop, your pit bulls,
Yeah.
your crazy. Most EDM you're gonna get in the UK. I know they love like EDM and stuff, and around
Yeah.
the world, it's growing in America. But the
Yeah.
most EDM you're gonna get is Steve Aoki, or Pet Boss or something like that.
Got it. You can't go
Um,
dropping in any like hardcore Adam Bayer
if it
techno.
doesn't have lyrics on it, there's not a chance you can play it.
Yeah.
So DJing is fucking super. DJs will get really mad at me, but like DJing is really easy. Like DJing for people who want to DJ for like techno stuff, like that's super easy. DJing a wedding with 100 people of all different ages, and then you also want to make the bride and groom happy. Okay, my opinion, that's way harder to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's my side job, and then my main job is I own Podcast Principles, which was a podcast production and launch company, but now is a content marketing agency. So we come into businesses and build out their content marketing if they have a podcast or want to start a podcast. So we work with companies that either have a podcast or want to start a podcast, and they want to start creating the social media content that drives more business to them.
Got it. You know what? I was thinking this would be a really interesting conversation for us to have about like the existential decision making that happens within a business, because I think although you and I are doing something quite different, the thought process and philosophy that seems to be going on behind the scenes is quite similar. Let me explain what I mean by that. You come from an environment where you were focusing almost exclusively on finding an idea for your podcast, launching the podcast, and then that being the thing. For me, it was originally training as a therapist, then moving into coaching. And then from there, that's become the foundation. And then you've gone, okay, well, I don't want to speak on your behalf, but for me, what I noticed was that actually I felt like I'd just outgrown that coaching and coaching only, and it wasn't stimulating me in the same way as it was previously. And I was kind of in this existential space of questioning, like, is this it? Because I am not getting what I used to get from this anymore, and I need to do something more. Does that resonate with what you were going through the podcasting stuff as well?
It does resonate. And it's not that I didn't get the same enjoyment out of it. It's that it wasn't working. Like it would work for a certain type of person in a certain type of situation with a certain type of drive and motivation, right? So we were getting what I felt like we were getting half of the equation, right? So we're like, we got all this podcast stuff. It's all really good, but there's something missing. And so the realization that we came to was it's the size of the business that we're working with, right? So somebody who has a solo business may be able to pay $5,000 up front, $10,000 up front, but then that's it. It's all you're going to get, right? They can't pay $5,000 a month. So then I was like, all right, how could we get like somebody who can pay us monthly, so then we can continue to, or yearly, so we can continue to work with them and build something huge? Because we would launch a podcast and then they would be on their own, right? It's not their fault. It's not our fault. It's just how our system was set up. So we were like, we can't leave them on their own. Like we need to help. And then that's when we figured out, oh, it's the marketing piece. What if they rely on this podcast for their marketing, so then they can build an asset, but also we can continue to work with them to improve it 6 months, 12 months, 2 years. Our longest client now is over 3.5 years, right? And hey, the longest client, 3.5 years, they have the best results. So I was like, oh, okay, that's the side. And obviously multiple we've invested $15,000 in figuring this out, so, and that's just the beginning. But it was that, but it was also like this, like we have something really, really good. It's just, we're missing a couple core components of it.
Yeah, that's exciting. It sounds like you found some alignment there.
Yeah, for sure. We'll see. We worked with a really big business, primarily. I mean, definitely in 2024, but we got locked in with them in 2023, and that opened my eyes too. They were doing about 200 million a year. We had some really incredible results from working with them and their team. The CMO is still a client of ours. So, that made me go, oh, wait, yeah, like I can always make a bigger impact if the business is larger. Now, is there going to be a lot more growing pains and sales cycle and logistics and compliance? Well, for sure. But that I'm willing to handle to work with this, right? I mean, to wrap this up, not to keep going, and I digress here, but when it comes to at least this business, I realized I'm like, we have to work with less people in a bigger capacity where we are a smaller piece of a bigger budget. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So we have to work with fewer people, bigger contract size, smaller budget for them. And that whole thing does not come with anything except time, testing, coaching, right? Like you can't land there, man. It's impossible.
No. Yeah. As a lesson in patience for you in terms of the sales cycle when you're working with those bigger customers and clients, things move a little bit slowly, but when you get there, right? And that's the payoff.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And there's there's a solopreneur kind of angle, right? Where I mean, I thought this, I lived this, which was like, no big companies. We don't work with big companies. We work with people,
Right.
And it's like I did that, and I had that philosophy, and it worked. We launched a ton of podcasts, right? Like I mean, part of the reason why you're here right now, podcasting,
Yeah.
and that's a testament to what we were able to do in our team, and that's incredible. But I was like, that's not business though. Like that's like the level that we were functioning at is everybody was glorified freelancing basically. Right.
Right.
And I was like, there's an entire world of business that's really happening, right? Where there's like huge org charts and like massive marketing departments and like, but maybe not. I mean, we've come across companies with doing $100 million, but four people working on marketing. Right. So anyway, it was like there was a door and I was like, we don't open that door. Right. And I took a peek and I was like, oh God, there's a lot of stuff in there, but okay, but it's good stuff,
Yeah.
So yeah, man. So we're getting into weeds here a little bit, but that is that's where my mind went, with all this stuff.
Yeah, no, I think it's good. Like I don't think I've explained it to you yet, but the philosophy of this show is that people come on to fill seats inside a boardroom, and the people who come in are founders leading businesses who can just speak to the experiences which they've had within their representative business. And the insights and principles that you share are going to be applicable to various other businesses as well, because what you're saying is, yeah, we tried this thing, it didn't work, so we did something different. But it's like it did work for clients. Our clients were climbing in; they were getting they were getting what you said you'd deliver. But because from what I'm hearing, it was cyclical. Yeah, so you had people come in, they'd build the thing, they'd launch the thing, and then they go. And then I'd imagine your revenue is going up and down, and you're like, well, hang on a minute, we're kind of chasing our tail a little bit here. So important distinction is that it worked for clients, just didn't work for you as a founder of a business.
Man, you're so right. And so I got it's exactly it. And you know what happened was I lost where we were supposed to go. So another example, I don't know if you want me to keep going here, but I'm just kind of like tossing out examples. This is and all of this will be very relevant for any business owners because this is just what happens. We launched a community, right? Alex Ramosi school, and that's not why I launched one. I didn't do it for revenue. I didn't do it for have a $40 million a month recurring subscription school community. Like none of that was cool or interesting to me. That's not why I like Alex Ramosi. I actually think I think it does a huge disservice to his content, but, so I did it. Revenue was great. $10, $15, $20,000 from the community. Super great feedback. I'm mismanaged it. I didn't have moderation. I'm not a great digital community leader. Like I'm great in person, but like everything was exposed. We didn't vet properly. Like there was a lot of problems, but there was not one bad review at all. Right. Everybody was like, I learned something, but we gave them too much, all that. Right. But again, I never thought like, why am I doing this? You know? And I knew I was like, I'm doing it to solve a gap. Like these people can't pay $5,000 to $10,000 even up front, right? So then we can do this community thing, and that's more affordable, right? And so again, same thing as before. It worked, but I get to the end of that, I close it down. It just got archived today, and nobody blew up, nobody called my phone. Everybody was fine. Mm-hmm. Everybody was good. They all got it. But it was like end of last year. And I found a random business coach on LinkedIn and I DM'd him and I was like, hey, I really like your content. Here's my situation. And that ended up to being a 3-month, very intense coaching program to bring me back to why the hell am I actually doing this? You know, so you're going to do all these things. You're going to do the community. You're going to do this. You're going to pivot. You're going to try all these things, but it's where are we going?
Yeah.
Right. And so that's the thing that I lost it, man. I forgot where I was going.
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate the vulnerability, bro, because it's not an easy thing to admit. I mean, it's probably easier now that you're on the other side of it. But in that 3-month coaching process, I'm sure there was a few moments you were like, what the fuck?
Dude, it was the hardest thing I've ever done.
Yeah, I hear you.
It was the hardest thing I've ever done in business. And I've done a lot of things. And when I say I too, like I didn't know where we were going, I mean we, but I have to lead it, right? So I mean our team, I mean, you know, my general manager, like I mean like us, but really I'm leading the ship, right? So but yeah, so 100%, man. It was like a lot of moments of like, do you really want this, right? And you know, and funny enough, it really brought me back to my roots, you know. And now I'm back to posting. Like I remember I hired a coach. He was like, "Why are you posting this like rap video?" And then like, but now I know why I'm posting a rap video, right?
Right.
Like I used to doom scroll on my phone. I still do, but I don't do it when I'm supposed to be on this podcast with you, right? I know why I'm doing it when I'm doing it, right? Because that's okay. If you're taking a break, you can look at your phone, right? But again, it's like it all came back, at least a huge highlight, which there's a lot to unpack there, but really a lot about, hey, why are you doing these things, you know?
Yeah, I hear you. I signed a new client this morning, actually, whose situation is quite similar. He's a fractional CFO. He was working for a startup for 5 years or so. And for anyone who's worked in a startup before, they'll know that it's fucking intense, like really, really heavy work because every day you're doing something which is probably completely new and novel to you. And he wanted to get away from that. So he launched a freelance CFO outfit. And he's just been grinding, working as hard as he can for the last year to the point where he scaled his business to now doing 20, 25K a month. Wow. But he's asking that same question. It's like, where am I?
Yeah.
I don't know if I want this. I'm now at a point where I can't take on any more clients. Do I want a team? Do I want to go back to a job? Do I just want to scale back and have a solo business? Like, I don't know. This thing has taken off and I don't even know where I'm going. And the analogy that I shared with him was it's almost like looking up an enormous mountain, which you grind it out to climb. You're sweating, you're panting, you're putting in tons of energy to get to the top of this mountain, only to find out that you've climbed the wrong mountain.
Dude, and you like look and there's the peak of the mountain you should be on. You're like, it's right there, but you got to go all the way back down and then all the way back up.
Yeah.
Dude, it's crazy. I heard this quote. It's probably like Naval or somebody like prolific, or Hermosi, it was probably Hermosi or something. But he was like, you constantly are figuring out the business that you're actually in all the time, right? So it's like podcasts. Well, no, it's kind of like marketing. Well, why? Because it's a pre-buying experience. Oh, because the other company doesn't have so it's not about the podcast at all. No, it's about creating this experience before somebody buys. So it's like as you continue on the layers, it just gets deeper and deeper, right? As to what you're actually doing. So that CFO, fractional CFO, money therapist, right? So, right? Because the CEO is like, gets to blame you, right? Because like vendors get blamed for a lot of shit. I'm not saying that's happening, but see what I'm saying? It's like for every client, you're a slightly different business to them.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's why, that's the root of productization that we could talk about. But,
yeah. And, when we worked together last year, me as a client of yours, it was clear that, a lot of the content side of things was an area that you enjoyed spending time in. So do you feel that now you've made this pivot into more of a marketing ownership position, do you feel like you're spending more time in your zone of genius now?
So interesting that you say that, because I learned the different types of time and in terms of things that you could be doing. And one of them I learned is called zone of genius. Right. Now, it turns out you can't do zone of genius for 12 hours straight. Because that's what the stuff people tell you. They're like, work for 12, 19 hours, build your business. Anyway, to answer your question, yes, 100%. And I realize that. And by the way, when I say like, we're working with these bigger companies, we still have many smaller clients. But that's what I'm doing with them, right? I'm their sounding board for AMAs. I just did an AMA with a client the other day, right? He has never gotten on a live video before. He's maxed out. He can't take any more clients, right? Instead of me going, well, you're not doing podcasting. Sorry. No, we go, you're going to do podcasting when we do these things first. Research, ask the market what their questions are, build out a free program, use that to upsell to the paid. The paid is high ticket, low, right? And so now I get to work with a client and build out a 2-year thing. Whereas before it was like, oh my God, this podcast. Yep, let's go. Content, let's worry about that later, right? So 100%, man. And obviously I just keep going on every question here, but like what it was for me was having time to work on these other things. Right? Because I mean, even with you, we were kind of suggesting like, hey, Dan, like market this and launch it at the same time. And it's like, now I go, do you want to market it and launch it at the same time? If they're like, yeah, I'm like, all right, but now the results are going to be crazy, but your life's going to be insane. You're going to be like DMing people the link to your Spotify like 1,000 times in a day, right? Or whatever. So now I get to stretch it out. We don't talk podcasting with a client until 4-6 weeks in. We don't even really talk about it. It's all about what do we want this thing to do for you first.
Yeah. Nice. It's almost reverse engineering your journey, isn't it? When you
man.
What do I want? And then you've gone, okay, well, actually, there's something in that. So powerful, isn't it? When you can reverse engineer the insights that you've made and the changes you made in your own life and then monetize and productize that. There's nothing more powerful than lived experience when turned into a business of some description.
It is. And how can you help, right? And that's how I look at this now. I go, when somebody books a call, for example, now my mindset is I'm vetting you, right? Like, yeah, sure, you're vetting us, but here's our case studies. What else do you want? Right? Like you're a client. I could have a prospect email you. You'll be like, yeah, man, here's how it was. We did coaching, right? Like, so that's where I'm like, the results are not a thing. Like that's going to happen. It's just a matter of, can I take you to this level? Right.
Yeah.
And so like, all of that. And by the way, a lot of this is the product of coaching, right?
Yeah, cool. So what did you ultimately realize in the coaching process that you did with your business coach that helped you get clarity on the direction and intention that you needed to change?
Number one, it's roles. It's as boring as it seems. I'm the CEO and the marketer and the salesperson. So when I sit down with a client, I go, what's your job? That's a hard question for a lot of entrepreneurs, even marketers, right? Because we work within businesses, right? Now, we don't work with a business if the founder doesn't co-sign what we're doing, because that's a red flag, right? If you're paying somebody else to do your content and you're not even involved, then that's a huge red flag, right? Because that's your boots on the ground, right? But anyway, we're working within businesses, right? We're talking to marketers. They're like, well, I do this, and then I also do this, and then I do this over here, and then I head that, and then I also have this to do, and well, I also run the webinars, and well, we have an in-person event twice a year. So what do you do, right? So that's the big one. My CEO activity. Well, you could tell me right now, Dan. Like, if we had to choose CEO, marketer, or salesperson activity, what would this be?
That we're doing right now?
That we're doing right now.
Oh, I don't know if it could be pigeonholed into one of those roles, to be honest. I mean, it is a form of marketing, but if you're talking about what you do as an organization, then I guess the CEO would be playing a role as well.
But there's no right answer. But just this conversation is now a different conversation than what should our podcast be about, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, and there's no right answer. I mean, for me, this is CEO time, but that's just what I've put it down as, right? My marketer, who's also me, has different jobs, right? Mm-hmm. And my sales guy, who's also me, has different jobs. But my general manager, who's not me, also has different jobs, right? Jack is not on this, right? It's not that he doesn't want to be or that he shouldn't be. It's that, well, these are his roles, right? And these are mine. So, but just that conversation, if like, dude, God, it changed so much, you know, just to talk through that.
Yeah. So powerful, different roles that we play. Yeah.
Because we don't know when you're sitting down there at 8 a.m. on a LinkedIn post, right? Like, this has systematized everything for me, and I'm not perfect. I'm a creative. It's hard. Attention management is very difficult for me. Task switching is very difficult, right? Like, I'm not an operator. I'm not an analytical person. I'm a creative, right? So I have to figure out how to be a CEO. I don't want to. I just want to market, bro. But I've chosen this life, right? So, okay. Then we got to figure out how. If you were in charge of that CEO who's an artist, how would you manage them, right? So, 100%.
Yeah, the evolution that's taking place here. I used to see this a lot, and I still do see it now. But when I was doing a lot more work within the performance coaching business, and I was working with online fitness coaches, there was a real shift when people got to, I don't know, between 10 to 20K per month. That business model is going to be inherently different to yours, and it'd be different to mine. But at that level where the online fitness coaching model is that you do maybe coaching calls with your clients once a week, and then they'd send you a report of how their training went, and then you do check-ins on a Monday. But there's only so much of that you can do in a day before you need to bring somebody else in, and that is a forced evolution. If you want to take your business beyond that point, you're going to have to bring somebody else in. You're probably going to have to look at bringing on a VA and doing all these various different things, and not a lot of people can actually do that, because it does take a real relinquishing of control and surrendering your power in some cases to somebody outside of yourself. And then you get into the area of like, do I trust these people? If not, why? And not everyone wants to go into that level of depth, you know? So I don't know if you've been going through that kind of stuff as well. I know you've had a team for a while, you partnered with Jack, and I don't know if you've got other people that you work with as well, but it is stepping out of the busy founder or the scrappy founder into the CEO. Yeah, it's an evolution, right?
Yeah, man. In hip hop, they call it the struggle rapper, right? And I'm so happy that I'm not. Like, I don't do it for a job. I do it because I love it, right? And it's nice. So I'm not struggling anymore. I'm just enjoying it, So, but that's what happens with everything, But no, to your point. I mean, here's the deal, man. I have a production company. I don't know what's happening with that. Like, I get updates, but like, I don't know. Right now, one of my editors is editing something, but I don't know what they're editing. I'm just not involved in that. Right. So do I relinquished control? Yes, but I can't be on this call, on this podcast, if I didn't relinquish the control. Right. And then Jack's going to manage it. And then Jack's going to come to me with the updates. And then I'm going to look at the updates. Okay, everything looks good. Where are we going next? Right. But yeah, man, it's and I delegated early. Before I had to, I started, right? And so not because I wanted to, it's more because not because I needed to, it's more because I wanted to, but yeah, it is different for everybody. I get it, but people, it's the hardest thing. right?
Yeah. Yeah.
No doubt.
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad that you've got alignment now. It sounds like it's all coming together, and I'm excited to see what's next. I'm curious though, how did you end up in initially building a podcasting business? Why did you pick that lane to drive the car in?
Yeah, I'm glad this is like the sixth question, not the first question. I like doing interviews this way. This is where it's more fun. But yeah, I started a podcast in 2018. So I had zero background. I had been a musician, but I mean, I was like 19, so not really. Just doing that on the side. Had made YouTube videos, like kind of dabble and stuff. And I started posting videos on Instagram when Instagram released video, right? So there was no like TikTok yet or feeds, but it was like, they just started putting videos. So I started making these 1 minute videos called Monday Thoughts. So every Monday, new thought. Could be about anything. Then I was like, why don't I make this a podcast? Because I was a huge Joe Rogan fan, Tim Ferriss fan. I started getting this Sam Harris, getting this podcast ecosystem. And then I did that. And then somebody randomly one day found me from that podcast, who I'm still friends with today. His name's Stefano. He runs a great business down in Florida. But then I was like, whoa, this is so cool. This person found me through my podcast. And then that like just lit the fire, man. And I've rebranded the podcast 3 times, changed the name 3 times. It still exists today. It's the Ryan Sullivan Show if you want to look it up. But that's what got me into it, man. Just started podcasting.
Yeah, very organic.
Very organic, just for fun. See what happens.
Yeah, yeah, and I guess it worked well for you, and then you thought, well, I could help other people do this.
Yeah, I mean, to an extent. I mean, I was editing. I started freelancing, and then that didn't work. So, I was doing Upwork, Fiverr, and then I was like, you know what? Instead of trying to do like social media management, voiceovers, I'll do, podcast editing. So my first job podcast editing was for a company that wanted me to do everything, host the podcast, edit it, release it, book the guests. So I did that for 19 episodes. Then they fired me from the podcast. Then I was like, all right, I'm going to start my own business. Start my own business, get hired on another podcast, $5,000 contract in my first 30 days in business. That podcast failed. So I was like, all right, they took us off that one. Then I was like, all right, I'll do another one. That podcast got a little bit of traction. Then I was like, all right, I'll do another one. That podcast is now the show that's been with us for 4 years. So it took us a while to figure it out. The first 3 were ball bombed.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I bet you've got some really shocking statistics that you can throw in here around podcasting. What is the massive insight that is known about podcasting, and they don't get beyond? Is it a certain number of shows, like the vast majority of them? What is that statistic? Do you know what that is?
Yeah, it's a blurry line, but for the most part, they say like 90% of podcasts don't get past episode 8 or episode 10.
Episode 8. Okay.
Yeah. So it's between 8 and 10 episodes. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I can pontificate on it. I mean, there's many reasons why it happens, but
yeah. Someone was saying that if you get to, is it like 14 or 15 episodes, then you're in the top 1% of podcasters.
I think it's like top 5% is that, and then top 1% would be like, maybe 20 episodes, 30 episodes. And then so there's about 3 million podcasts out there, and 90% of them have stopped. So the good thing is, which is a good thing, you get to go see what didn't work.
Yeah.
Or what could have worked, right?
Yeah.
Because there's so many that stopped that had crazy momentum. So now it's kind of nice. You just go like, oh, okay, we're in the fitness training. Well, look at all the fitness training podcasts that still exist. All right, what do they have? Well, they have 1,000 episodes. They have a dominant personal brand. They release consistently. They have consistent social media content. They run a coaching program that's an upsell to another coaching program. And now you can just look and reverse engineer it. So that is the good part about a lot of podcasts failing. It's like businesses failing. It's like, well, if 3 businesses in my niche fail, then I'll just won't do what they did.
Right. Are there any universal truths of podcast failure that you could share, or is it too ambiguous to give away like a framework of things not to do?
No, there's a few. I mean, the first one is don't stop.
The
second one is time is the best lever.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third one I would say is self-awareness. Or some kind of awareness where you can know, like, is what I'm saying like resonating? Because there's nobody here when me and you were recording this, right? So, but if we post a clip, then people can be like, either that clip was good or no, got 0 likes, got no comments, wasn't good, right? So those are really the three. I mean, I don't know if anybody would really argue with me on that. There are things that I do say that people do argue with me with, but I don't think I think everybody would kind of agree on those.
Yeah, I certainly do, and I failed on the first one as well because I stopped my podcast last year. But it was a poor decision, and I think that comes into the third point that you mentioned, which is self-awareness.
Yeah.
I was in a state of denial last year, to be honest, about the addiction stuff, and I thought that it was the thing because like I'd wrapped up so much of my identity and emotion in it. So I felt like launching a podcast was the thing that I should do, so I did,
Sure.
and then ultimately looked in the mirror and realized that this is not where I'm meant to be. So is what it is. But
Well, that's the lesson. You
Yeah.
did everything right.
Yeah.
And that's what allowed you to pivot to do everything even more right now.
Yeah.
You did all the things. You hired the coach. You hired, somebody to help. You created the episodes. You formatted it. You released it. People listened to it. Like, you did all those things,
Yeah.
It's worse if you fail and you didn't do any of those. And there's, then you don't have nothing to iterate on,
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Yeah. So the way that I look at your content and the things you talk about, I kind of see podcasts are enormous leverage if they're used in the right way. But they can be anyway. But I think where I didn't see that before when I launched mine was just viewing it as another thing. It's just another thing. I was talking about the different roles that people wear within a business. I'm a podcaster now, or I'm a content creator now, or I'm a coach now, or I'm a this now. It's like, no, actually, a podcast can become a bit of an engine room, or at least that's the way that I'm looking at it. Anyway, is that your kind of philosophy on podcasts as well? And I appreciate you said that it comes later down the line now. That's not like the thing that you do in the front end, but a point of leverage is what it can be.
Yeah. So leverage. Yes. Leverage. I would say there's a few things. So the one side of it is what they would call personal branding, but really what it is, it's turning you into a public figure. So the only way to become a public figure is to create things in public. So a podcast is that, right? So if you're a host or if you're a guest or you write a book or you're on the news or you're featured in Forbes or whatever, those are all, you speak on stages. Those are all things that public figures do. And we can argue about the definition, but that's one thing that podcasting gets you. So whoever the talent is going to be on a track to become a public figure. And then number two, you have what you're saying is leverage. Listen, Madison Square Garden is never going out of business, right? And even in COVID, after COVID, they stayed alive. But yes, if there's natural disasters, things like that, sure. But what I'm saying is the person who owns the stage, they're good because they can always rent the stage to somebody who's more famous or has more money, right? But that real estate, right? So what you're doing is creating content real estate. So you own, we've seen this with many of our clients who are in very niche industries. Once you become the podcast, you become the podcast. Now they have to come to you, right? So it's like a legal media monopoly. And then the third piece is the content benefits, right? The SEO, the clips, right? Our over 75% of my content is clips from podcast episodes. And it works really well. Now, it doesn't work well for everybody because you got to figure out how to design it because you need a strategy. But when you do that, you have that too. So I'd say those are the kind of three big things in terms of, so what are the benefits here? Those are a few.
The public figure point's really interesting. I hadn't thought of it that way.
Well, the podcast is the new book, right? If you're 50, 60, 70 years old, totally get writing a book. You've kind of been there, done that, put all your stuff together, have this book to ride out in the sunset. But in this media landscape we're in now, it doesn't make any sense to do that. If you're in a career, why would you create something that you can never change that's completely static, right? The podcast gets to change every single week. The content gets to change every day, every hour. So it's not just, hey, we created, this is a new way to say I wrote the book on it. Like, no, you're creating a book every week, right? That's like 10
Mm,
pages that people are not judging you by this one static thing, right? You're able to constantly change it and evolve it as you go.
yeah, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I don't know if you've followed much of Daniel Priestley and his work. Really
Definitely
great.
familiar.
Yeah, definitely worth checking out his stuff. I think that you'd really like him. He was on Diary of a CEO recently, which is a really good episode, and he was saying that people need to spend either 5 or 7 hours consuming your content before they are in a position to want to give you money. And one thing that he said he does with all of his coaching clients when he starts working with them is he says, if I were to spend a whole day consuming all of your content on all different platforms, how long would it take me? And for most people, it's like you could probably do it in, maybe 3, 4 hours. Got LinkedIn posts backed up for 2 years, maybe or so, but they're all generally quite short form, aren't they? Which is definitely the way that copywriting is going nowadays, is like compress it as much as possible, maximum impact, like direct response stuff. But podcasting or even YouTube, it's giving people a space to go and binge potentially for hours if they want to. So they're going to be spending a hell of a lot more time with you, and it's a lot more organic and authentic, isn't it? So people get to know you a lot better. I totally get it. Totally get it.
Damn, I'm gonna have to listen to that, or maybe watch. Sometimes I watch the podcast. That's great.
Mm.
That's such good advice, and what a great metric. Like, yeah, for me, it would take you. There's nobody could consume all of my content because I have
Mm-hmm.
a lot of backlog. Now, in terms of relevant content to this conversation, yeah, maybe you could do it in a week nonstop. Damn, that's a good number. I should figure out what that number is, Dan. That's what a great
Yeah,
note.
yeah, yeah.
Sure
I don't know
though.
what it would be. Yeah, I don't know what it would be for me, to be honest. It certainly wouldn't be much on the podcast, but you know, I don't know how you'd quantify it. If you write a lot, are you gonna
Well,
measure how long it would
yeah.
take? But
Well, that's the thing too, right? So if they say like, hey, so 12, 17 touch points, 7 hours of content,
right,
when if you're in most businesses, right? Say you're a hotel, or you're a B2B service company, or you're a liquor store, or whatever you will do. Nobody's reading stuff. Like,
mm,
that's my only pushback to text. Like, I love text content. It's huge. Obviously, I do it on top of the video, and like people
mm-hmm.
read my stuff every day. But this is way closer to how we would actually work together than reading, right?
Yeah,
Because like if your client pays to read stuff, then post text. But if they pay to be with you, then post videos. Why is that so crazy, right?
that makes so much sense. I've never even thought of that. Of course.
Right. So it's like but it's the analogy continues, right? Seth Godin writes blogs. What does he also write? Books,
Mm,
right? Tim Ferriss writes blogs. What does he also write? Books. He wants
mm,
people to buy the books. I don't do books, right? Like, I do human stuff, right? Like, I mean, person
mm,
to person. Not that books are bad. Books are amazing. Changed my life. But what I'm saying is, it has to be a one-to-one. Like, if you were a CEO, then nobody's supposed to ever see you, and you just live in the background and in the shadows, which many CEOs do, and I totally get that. Totally get that.
mm,
Then don't post videos.
mm.
But if you're the CEO, like, hey, I'm managed by wandering around. I talk to everybody, right? Like, I own 13 hotels, but I walk down to the front desk and, hey, how's it going, Maria? Talk to whatever. Like, if that's you, then you're going to need videos now, right? So it's just amazing how simple it is using logic, but
Yeah, it
we'll
is.
overcomplicate it no matter what.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. That's a great insight. Thank you for that. We was talking off camera to begin with, little knowledge bombs that just come out of nowhere that become part of our inherent DNA and belief system as coaches. Which I'm sure you've had those moments when you're with a client, maybe, and you say something like, "Oh shit, I've never thought of it in that way
Mm.
before." And you're like, "What did I say? What did I
Yeah.
say?" But
Oh
then it
my
really lands.
goodness.
That's one of those moments. I suspect it's just second nature for you sharing that kind of stuff. But it's for someone like me, mere mortal in the podcasting world. It's really, really high value. So thank you.
Oh, and I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm just talking, man, in my head, right? And
Yeah,
I'm just talking. That's all I do. I mean, what I say is like, don't just do something, stand there.
for sure.
You know,
Yeah.
just sit, just talk, see what happens, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's it. Keep it
Yeah,
simple.
yeah. Well, I've just seen the time. We're at 46 minutes here, bro. So, how can people find you? You got your podcast, you said The Ryan Sullivan Show, and you spend most of your time hanging out on LinkedIn. How can people find you over there?
Yeah, so Ryan R. Sullivan, you can Google that now. We got the SEO for R.
Nice.
Ryan Sullivan's a whole different game. That's going to be a 50-year strategy.
Yeah.
So you can Google that. Just sometimes just Google Siri, whatever's just easier.
Yeah.
But YouTube, LinkedIn, and then the podcast, Ryan Sullivan Show. Go check that out. If you're into any type of marketing, sales, anything we talked about today, the Ryan Sullivan Show is definitely a good spot for that. We got the longer ones are more like this version where we really go deep, and the shorter ones are more tactical episodes where, you know, we solve a quick problem real quick, right? And then the YouTube side is the visual version of that, you know. So yeah, man, appreciate the adding the CTA in there.
No problem, bro. I can vouch for it. I love your content. It's always really high value, so definitely recommended. But thank you for coming on, mate. Really appreciate it.
Love your content too, man. Thank you so much for having me. This was definitely this is the right time to do it, man. I'm very excited for both of our kind of trajectories here and see what we can come up with.
Absolutely. All right, brother. Take care.
You got it, man. Be good.